Okay, let me set this up. Oh boy, week 15. Week 15 was a mess. So much happened in week 15, huh? Oh, come on, man. Oh, okay. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't want to fix this either. What's going on, guys? Give me a second here while I do what I usually do and fix some things here. Oh, jeez. That's not what I needed to do. There we go. Hi. What a week. But honestly, it don't even matter, man. It was really one of those nothing burger type of weeks. Nasty to say, but it really was one of those nothing burger type of weeks. Like, nothing really changed here. Nothing. This week didn't matter so much. It's crazy how little this week really mattered. Like, usually you would get weeks that do matter. This week didn't matter at all. But it feels like it has to matter because of the possibilities that could happen in week 16. Such a weird thing to see, honestly. You normally wouldn't see this, but yeah. Whatever, though. We're here to talk about it. All right, that. Do that. And do that. All right. I think we should be good to go. We should be good to go. Oh boy. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your night. Week 15 has almost come to an end. We actually got 2 games tomorrow for Monday Night Football. So week 15 has not ended yet, but week 15 has ended for the AFC North. Now, I do want to be clear here, this is not a preview video for the upcoming game between the Ravens and Steelers. This is just our usual State of the AFC North address. It's been crazy the last few weeks, but this week has been one of those weeks where it's the calm before the storm. The reason why this week was the calm before the storm is because nothing majorly changed this week. The Browns are still the Browns. The Bengals are holding on by a thread. It's really the Ravens and the Steelers that are going at it for the division. But nothing majorly changed in the division this week. It's relatively the same. However, because of how things went this week, we've got a setup this upcoming week 16. We've got a huge setup that will determine the division. And it's right here, man. It is right here. It's real. And things are going to get hectic. So before we get into the 2 teams that do matter, we do have to talk about the 2 teams that do not matter because their chances in the division are gone, and one of them's already pretty much done in terms of making the playoffs. The other is still trying to hold on to a thread. So let's start with the irrelevant team that's not doing anything this year. The Cleveland Browns took on the Kansas City Chiefs. Nothing really much to see here. They lost. Jameis threw 3 picks. I mean, he he just looked awful. He threw 3 picks. He got benched. DTR came in. He threw a pick. I mean, they just looked awful. You knew they weren't beating Kansas City. Everybody and their grandmother knew that Cleveland Browns were not beating Kansas City. Kansas City is just such a weird team. For one, we do have to say this. Mahomes is dealing with an ankle injury, but it's nothing severe. He's just sore. He will be fine. He is week to week, but, Mahomes has dealt with ankle injuries before heading into the postseason. It has not stopped him from being who he is, and it's not stopped him from winning a championship with said ankle injury, so I'm not really worried about the Chiefs. Mahomes can deal with the ankle injury as long as it's not severe and long term. They're going to be fine. Just rest him up. I think they need to win potentially one. No, they're going to need to win 2 more games because the Bills beat the Lions today. The Bills are now 11-3. So with the Chiefs being at 13-1, they do need to win 2 more games in order to secure the number 1 seed. They either need to win 2 more games or they got to win one and hope the Bills lose one of their final 3 games. Which, if you've seen the teams they're going up against, Patriots, Jets, Patriots. Yeah, that's a clean sweep. The Bills look like they're going to finish 14-3. So if you're the Chiefs, you got to be at 15-2. So it's not over for Kansas City, which means that ankle injury does become more concerning because you're trying to lock up the number 1 seed, and you're going to need that first round bye if Mahomes is hurt. But that's beside the point. We're here to talk about the AFC North. Cleveland got stomped. It wasn't a competition. They weren't going to beat the Chiefs. Even with the Chiefs being as bad as they were offensively, we all knew they weren't going to do anything. Carson Wentz actually came in the game because Mahomes got hurt. But, yeah, we knew the Browns weren't going to do anything. The most noticeable aspect of this game was Myles Garrett getting poked in the eye. That's it. There's nothing else to really talk about. Myles Garrett got poked in the eye. That's all you could take away from this game. Kansas City was going to win no matter how you looked at it. Nothing was going to change. Congrats to them adding another win, but we all knew that they weren't going to lose to the Browns. So yeah, Browns are 3-11. They're pretty much looking to see if they can get a top 5 draft pick. And then maybe they may look for... I don't think this is the year they're going to look for a quarterback. Jameis is Jameis. It's not like he's your best option, but I don't know if this quarterback class is as strong as you would want it to be in terms of looking for a quarterback. So I don't know. If I would look at this and say, yeah, you would want to, what am I trying to say? I don't know if you would want to look at this draft and say, yeah, I want to get a quarterback here, because this is probably one of the more, or at least it's viewed as one of the more weaker quarterback drafts, so I don't think Cleveland's going to go after a quarterback this offseason. But at some point, that has to be in the plans for the Browns. Either way, 3-11, their season's already been over for so long now, it doesn't even matter. They would have won team that we already know is out of the playoff race, so we have to get them out the way. Next up, you've got the Cincinnati Bengals, and let me tell you something here, man. Cincinnati, I don't know what their plans are in the future. What are you going to do if you're Cincy? Because you're watching the offensive talent. You've got this dynamic trio here. You've got Joe Burrow. You've got Jamar Chase. You've got T. Higgins. Can you really afford to break that duo up? Well, yeah, you can afford to break that duo up because you can't afford to keep both. They have to pay Jamar Chase a hefty sum. So to ask for them to be able to pay Jamar Chase and then pay T. Higgins, where are they going to get that money from? And even if somehow they're able to get that money, if you pay both those guys, you're going to have no money to pay for your defense. So you better hit on every possible defensive draft pick you can get. And with as atrocious, with the way this defense has been, with as atrocious as they've looked all season, I don't think Cincinnati would be making the smartest move if they were to choose to re-sign both Higgins and Jamar Chase and just ignore the defense. I don't know. I don't know if I could sit back and say that. That would be an actual concern to me if I was a Bengals fan. I know you want to keep those three together, but you can't do it at the cost of having no defense because you're going to get a lot more years like this. If there's no defense in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow is going to keep putting up monster numbers and the team's going to be under 500 or maybe rolling around 500 but miss the playoffs. That's just not smart. That is just not smart. That's all I would have to say about that. But in terms of the game, I mean, Joe Burrow, still finding his guys. Will Levis continues to be my favorite quarterback to watch just because he's so entertaining. He was horrible in the game. Threw 3 picks, got benched. Mason Rudolph played better than him. It was hilarious. He got picked on one of those plays, and then I don't know who. I think it was Hendrickson that just not when he was already out of bounds, just pushed him on the floor. We got another peak Will Levis meme. Those Will Levis memes are some of the best memes. Some of the best memes that you get from the NFL, man. I always tune in to see at least one. I wait. I tune in occasionally to watch Titans game and just wait to see the Will Levis meme. So, that's great. But he was awful today. Mason Rudolph came in and looked more competent as a quarterback. But they still weren't going to beat this Bengals squad. They just weren't. They really weren't. Geno Stone had a pick six, so shout out to him, making an impact on that Bengals team. I'm not going to lie. It's so tough to really talk about this team because, like, Cincinnati, they're 6-8. They're fighting for their lives. They need so much to go their way, and virtually one thing went their way. They needed to win out. Actually, two things went their way. One, they need to win out. So they need to win out. They need the Chargers to lose 2 games, and I think they need the Broncos to lose 3. Maybe the Chargers one is probably one of the difference makers. They might need the Chargers to lose a few more games and then hope. The Chargers have the tiebreaker over the Bengals, so the Chargers have to lose out and the Bengals have to win out. If that happens, the Bengals can get the 7th seed. If not, they're going to need Denver to lose out, and they would have to win out. It's so much help that the Bengals need that I just don't see it happening. I don't think the Chargers are going to lose out, and I don't think the Broncos are going to lose out. But, if the Chargers end up with the same record, even if they do start losing more games, because they did lose today, they got beat badly by Baker and the Bucs. If they do continue to lose, as long as they have the same record as the Bengals, they will still make the playoffs over them. So, as long as Denver continues to win, and they won today, so they're 9-5. If Denver continues to win, there's no hope for Cincinnati to get in unless the Chargers just lose the rest of their games. They would have to completely lose out because I think they're 8-6 now. So they would have to lose their final. They would have to lose their final 3 games. They're 8-6 right now because they lost. They're 8-6. The Bengals are 6-8. Bengals would have to win out, and the Chargers would have to lose out. If that happens, Chargers will be out because at that point it would be 8-9, and then the Bengals would sneak in at 9-8. If not, Denver's just going to have to lose out. And it's not going to help that the Denver beat the Colts. Which, by the way, them beating the Colts virtually puts them in the position where they're going to be knocked out of the playoffs. Especially with the Texans winning today and going to 9-5. Colts are still technically alive, but it's looking bleak for them. Either way, Cincinnati kept their playoff hopes alive by winning against the Titans. They still got a few more games left, but their schedule, again, does favor them. That final game against Pittsburgh is going to matter. Just let me take a look at Cincinnati's schedule. For the final 3 games, they've got the Browns next week, so they should be able to win that one. Then they've got the Broncos, which ultimately determines their fate. And then they've got the Steelers in Week 18, which could determine whether or not they make the playoffs. Meanwhile, when you look at the Broncos remaining schedule, they got the Chargers. This is where things get different. If you're a Bengals fan, I think you gotta root for the Broncos. If you're a Chargers fan, you've got a better chance if the Chargers lose out than the Broncos lose out. Because if you look at this situation right now, I don't think that the Broncos are going to lose out. The Chargers, they have a chance to lose out. They have a chance, but it's not a huge chance. You look at it right now, it's very possible the Broncos can lose out. It's very possible. But you might have a better shot at the Chargers choking because I think the Broncos can at least take one of these matchups. However, the Broncos have a much tougher schedule than the Chargers. So the Broncos and Chargers play each other next week. When you look at the Broncos schedule, they play the Chargers on the road Thursday Night Football. So that's going to be happening in a few days. Then they got to go to Cincinnati for Week 17. And then to end the season off, they got Kansas City. But here's the thing. Kansas City, straight up, Kansas City might be resting their starters Week 18. So it might not even be a game where you can just sit back and think that the Broncos are going to lose because it's not going to be a game that's needed since the Chiefs are going to get the number 1 seed. So that becomes an issue there. Now, if they don't get the number 1 seed and week 18 does matter for the number 1 seed, let's say the Chiefs lose one of their previous 2 games before the final game of the season and they're tied with the Buffalo Bills, meaning they're right there with the Bills, meaning they need to win to secure the number 1 seed, that becomes different. So if the Chiefs lock up the number 1 seed, that Week 18 matchup becomes so much easier for the Broncos, and they can win it and secure a playoff spot. If the Chiefs do not lock up the 1 seed before Week 18, the Broncos are in trouble because the Chiefs are not losing that game because they're not going to lose home field advantage. So that becomes a different conversation. We'll see how Week 18 goes. As for the Chargers, they have a better chance to choke, but their schedule is much easier. They've got Denver coming into their house. Then they've got the Patriots. They're going on the road to take on the Patriots, and then they're going to go on the road to take on the Raiders. If the Chargers can't win at least 2 of those games, they deserve to miss the playoffs. So the Bengals, they really need a lot. I don't know. Maybe the path to maybe the Broncos' path is easier because the Broncos, I can see them losing all 3 games. I can see them losing to the Chargers. I can see them losing head-to-head to the Bengals, and then I can see them losing to the Chiefs. But I don't know, man. It is not looking good. Cincinnati themselves, they've got the Browns, Broncos, and Steelers, and they're not guaranteed to win that. And depending on how things go this week, the Steelers may need that final game. But, yeah, the Bengals keep their season alive. The playoff hopes is still there for them, but they need a lot of things to go their way. We'll just have to wait and see. So that's pretty much it for Cincinnati. Not much to speak on there. Now we got to move on to the third game, which of course is the second least important. Actually, not the second least. It's the second most important game here. But honestly, it feels like it's the second least important game. Let's be real. Let's not waste our time. Not a soul thought this team was going to lose this game. Coming off of a bye, did anyone think Baltimore was going to lose against the Giants? I mean, no one would have been surprised. This team is the type of squad that could blow it against the Giants team for no random reason. But everybody and their grandmother knew that this team was going to win. They were favored by 16 points. And a lot of times, especially coming off a bye, when they're favored, they win. The Giants are not a good football team. This was just one of your games where you just come out fresh off of a bye just to knock off the rust. This was one of those knock off the rust games to prepare for next week. The good news is you didn't suffer any major injuries in this game, so you're going to be good to go heading into the matchup against the Steelers. But this game meant nothing. It's one of those good games to just knock off the rust, come out, put up a great performance. You know, I expected the Ravens to blow out the Giants, and that's exactly what they did. But the game, despite the game that was showcased, it still showed some of the negatives that's going to haunt the Ravens. So, the good, Lamar Jackson throwing 5 touchdowns. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the game, and now he's arguably been playing like the best quarterback in the league. Though Allen will be the MVP, you know, Lamar has played like the best quarterback in football, but you can be the best quarterback in football and not win MVP. We've seen years like that. I would just say Lamar has been playing like the best quarterback, arguably, and Josh Allen's going to win MVP. Those 2 things can be true. But, yeah, Lamar being Lamar Jackson, offense being able to put up points against this terrible Giants team is to be expected. Rashad Bateman, at least that was a good thing to see. Rashad Bateman caught 2 touchdowns here. His first one, man, he ran a beautiful route, had the corner just completely lost, got himself open in space, 49-yard touchdown. I love seeing Bateman be able to do that. Mark Andrews makes history. He passes Jamal Lewis for most touchdowns in franchise history by a player. He's now at 48. Congratulations to Mark Andrews. He's going to go down as a legendary Raven. Obviously, when he retires, he's going in the Ring of Honor. One of the greatest to ever suit up for this franchise. Appreciate everything he brings to this team and everything he brings to the organization, man. He was off to a slow start, cannot lie. But he came off of a major injury and then had a car accident, you know, during training camp. So obviously, it was going to take time for him to get back. But Mark Andrews is back to being Mark Andrews. He's back to being one of the best tight ends in football. And there's no concerns with him moving forward. So that's great to see. Other good, Tez Walker. I was shocked to see they gave this man an opportunity. He made a great play, like a great block, or not a great block. He made it like a great tackle on special teams. So I guess Harbaugh liked it enough to reward him. I am so shocked they gave this man an opportunity. They threw in Tez Walker for his first ever target. They threw in Tez Walker. Unfortunately, this is not the Q&A stream. I'm actually going to set this up. See, guys, I've been working a lot. I don't have time. But the holidays are coming around, and I can tell you right now, not this upcoming week. Next week, I'm going to have all the free time in the world. I will get you that Q&A stream. But I got to go to work tomorrow. I'm going to be working all week so I can set up my time to be able to have days off for the holiday. Christmas is coming up, and I don't want to work on the Christmas. So I will say this right now. The Christmas game between the Texans and the Ravens, I made sure I'm going to be off for that one. So hopefully there's no family gatherings or anything I have to go to. In terms of work, Christmas Day, as long as I don't have to go to no parties, I will be here. And I will have the stream ready. So I've been working a lot of extra days just to make sure I can have that whole week off. So I'm going to be off. The week of Christmas, I'm going to be here. So don't worry, the Texans-Ravens game, I couldn't promise you that. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be here barring any sort of celebrations I have to go to. And I haven't heard about any Christmas parties. I have some Christmas parties that I have to go to before Christmas, but not on Christmas Day. So I got a bunch of stuff before Christmas that I do like the following days, but not on Christmas. So the Christmas game, I should be here for that, no question. At least I won't be at work, I know that for sure. And then I'll have time throughout that week to do Q&A. So yeah, I decided to push that back just because I wanted days off on Christmas. I didn't want to have to work on that. So yeah. But, what was I speaking of? Yeah, Tez Walker. Oh, my goodness. Tez Walker. They finally gave him an opportunity. He got in the game. And you know what happened? They threw him the ball. Tez Walker's first career target was a reception. But it wasn't just any reception. Tez Walker's first career target and first career reception was for a 21-yard touchdown. Interesting. You know, you try to utilize your rookie in the game, and he actually produces. Maybe we should try to utilize that talent more. Would anybody be surprised if you don't see Tez Walker on the field moving forward? They decided to come out here, give him an opportunity. Glad to see the rookie get a rep, get an opportunity, get a target, and actually catch a touchdown. But I'm telling you right now, I don't see Tez Walker being in the plans for the 2024 Ravens. It seems like they may try to work him in for 2025. They may try to sit him this first year or really not get him involved in the offense this first year. And then year two, they're going to really start to integrate him. It feels like it's going to be that case because the fact that he hasn't been utilized all season has spoken on that. Doubt he's going to be in the game much moving forward, so enjoy the rep now. That shocked me. I was like, who caught that? Is that Tez? Did they actually throw Tez the ball? I was shocked. So, yeah, that was another good thing. So, yeah, Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, Tez Walker. These were some of the good things here. The offense as a whole just executing for the most part, which is to be expected given the fact that you are going up against the Giants. But we're not going to rain on their parade. A win is a win. I still say you need at least 10 wins on the season to clinch a playoff spot, especially because Baltimore has tiebreakers over the other two wildcard spots, and the Chargers just lost. This is the thing. The Ravens have a tiebreaker over the Chargers. They have a tiebreaker over the Chargers. They have a tiebreaker over the Broncos. They have a tiebreaker over the Bengals. We don't have to worry. We get to 10 wins. We're good. If we get to 10 wins, we make the playoffs. Now, I don't know if we specifically clinch officially. I don't know if we need 11 wins. I believe we should clinch with 10 because I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, they just clinched. Even though they lost today, they just clinched a playoff spot. So I think we should be able to clinch if we do get to 10 wins at some point. So I'm only looking at it and saying one more win to make it to the playoffs. But I would have to see. Maybe we'll see. We'll see the scenarios. Maybe there's an opportunity for the Ravens to clinch a playoff spot this upcoming week. I don't know. But yeah, more good. Just Ravens being able to execute on all cylinders. Justice Hill being involved. You really saw these guys get involved. Mark Andrews doing his thing. Just good stuff all around. Oh yeah, another good thing. Ardarius Washington got an interception. So good for him. He's been playing well. He's been having a great year. Love to see what I'm seeing from Ardarius Washington. Hopefully he can continue this, and hopefully the Ravens will continue to make improvements. That's some of the good. Let's speak on the bad. Number one issue that continues to remain. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, hear me out. I got to grab the mic for this one. Because this is really important. This is really important to really specify because at the end of the day, we have to speak up about this still being a thing. It's insane how this is still a thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in week 15. Matter of fact, the Ravens have just finished week 15. They have just finished week 15. 14 games down, 3 more left to go in the season. So we have just finished week 15. 15 weeks in! And the Ravens still have issues with penalties. 15 weeks into the NFL season, ladies and gentlemen. 15 weeks into the NFL season. And the Ravens still have issues with penalties. They can't stop committing penalties. And yes, you can argue 1 or 2 of those are iffy, but a majority of those were legit. The Ravens, in this game against the New York Giants, committed 12 penalties for 112 yards. They continue to lead the league in penalties. Fresh off a bye against a bad Giants team, and you commit 12 penalties. This team committed 4 penalties on one drive that led to the first touchdown scored by the Giants. How does this team continue to do this? What makes it worse is they're committing penalties on 3rd down. So instead of getting off the field, they're committing penalties to keep opponents on the field. Really? Really? So disgusted. 15 weeks in and you still can't stop committing penalties at a high rate. No one's asking for you to completely eliminate penalties. Nobody goes into football games thinking their team's not going to commit a single penalty. It'd be lovely, but a mistake or 2 is going to be made here. But we would like for this Ravens team to commit 4 or 5 penalties a game. How are you in double digits? You're leading the league in penalties. You're leading the league in penalty yards. You're averaging the most amount of penalties per game. You are the most, not even poorly, you're the most undisciplined team. The most undisciplined team in the National Football League. 12 penalties for 112 yards? Are you serious? Unserious. Unserious behavior. Fresh off of a bye, and yet this team still can't stop committing penalties. You can get away with 12 penalties for 112 yards against the measly Giants. You can't get away with that against some of the top tier teams. You can't commit 12 penalties against some of the top tier teams and assume you're going to be able to win that football game. This team continues to continue to make the same mistakes. Holding calls, pass interference calls, roughing the passer calls, holding calls offensively, false starts, illegal formations, ineligible receiver downfield. Don't y'all get tired of committing penalties over and over and over and over again? 12? We can understand if it was 4 or 5 a game. That's reasonable, that's normal. But 12 penalties for 112 yards against the New York Giants? This team's leading the league by penalties. They're leading the league in penalties by far. They're leading the league in penalty yards by far. They're leading the league in average penalties per game by far. The most undisciplined football team resides in Baltimore because they can't get out of their own way. Instead of the defense getting off the field, the defense keeps the offense on there because they can't stop committing penalties. That continues to be an issue, ladies and gentlemen, and there hasn't been any improvements. Another issue, the offensive line continues to be somewhat of a problem. I just want to point that out. Lamar has to continue to run for his life to make plays because if he stands in the pocket, he's going to get hit. And there was a situation where Lamar is just in the pocket and a defender just breaks free wide open because somebody whiffed. I think it was Macari that whiffed on a block. There was also a moment where Faalele was supposed to block. He was supposed to pass protect, and instead he tried to pull the defender like he was run blocking. So he did the wrong thing, and that play resulted in virtually nothing. I don't understand how the offensive line can continue to be this poor due to guard play, and the team doesn't make those changes. What more do you need to see from your guards before you decide enough is enough, let's go try to make a change? Like, how much more? At this point, I have to be convinced that Voorhees and Ben Cleveland are so god-awful that they would produce at a lower level. They'd be way worse than the two we have now. They have to be dramatically worse. Because if they can't see the field with the way those two are playing, that says something about either our head coach or about the players themselves. And I don't know the answer to which. The offensive line still being a problem at this stage is going to be the main catalyst that costs this team in the playoffs. We all know that's going to be the case. Baltimore can continue to close their eyes and pretend that this offensive line isn't going to cause problems for Lamar come playoff time. But we can all see this offensive line is an issue. And we will be seeing that on Saturday when they've got to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last but not least, Brandon Stephens continues to be an issue. I don't know what it's going to take for them to realize that Brandon Stephens should not be starting as a corner on this team. I don't know what it's going to take, but he shouldn't be the starter. I'm not saying he shouldn't play. It's not a Marcus Williams situation, but he should not be the starter. How many times is this guy going to get caught lacking? Every time he's in the vicinity to try to make a play, never turns his head around, never makes a play on the ball. Looking lost out there at times. The commentators were making fun of him at times, saying he was looking lost out there. Though I think one of the plays they were talking about, actually he didn't look lost. He did turn his head around. But still, he just looks lost out there at times. And there's so many pass interference calls that are happening on him. It's like quarterbacks walk in, see the Ravens defense and say, Marlon Humphrey? I'm not throwing to him. Nate Wiggins, that rookie, scrappy. I'm not throwing to him. Oh, Brandon Stephens is right there? Let me just air the ball out to Brandon Stephens. And to make matters worse, they move their receivers to purposely match up with Stephens. And the Ravens do not respond by moving Marlon Humphrey and moving Nate Wiggins. No, they just let Brandon Stephens stay out there to die. And he keeps getting cooked and he keeps getting killed. It's either he gives up a big catch or he causes PI. Like, what do you do with this guy anymore? At what point do the Ravens make that change and say, all right, Brandon Stephens, you got to go to the bench. You have not been producing at a high level at all this year. You've been poor for much of this year. You've been inconsistent. You need to go to the bench. At what point do they sit back and make that decision? I don't understand. I don't understand how much more we need to see from Brandon Stephens getting cooked or committing penalties before the defense says, enough's enough, go sit down. They could say that with Marcus Williams, but they can't say that about Brandon Stephens. That's ridiculous. So yeah, some of the problems are still here. Brandon Stephens, the offensive line, penalties. If those three don't get fixed, it could cost the team a chance to go on a run in the playoffs. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, Ravens did get the win. They go to 9-5. They're one step closer to making the playoffs. And now they have a huge battle this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are coming down to Baltimore in under 6 days. Matter of fact, it is 12:14 a.m. Today is Monday. They'll be here Saturday. So it's a very short week. Like I said, coming out of the bye week, we had 3 games in 10 days. 3 games in 10 days. Game 1's done. You played it on Sunday. Game 2, you're going to have to play on Saturday. So it's a short week. You don't have time to really rest. It's a short week. So you've got to get yourself going right now. Maybe you get a day off. Maybe you don't. I don't know what they're going to plan to do. But they got to get ready for the Pittsburgh Steelers that will be coming in on Saturday. Last but not least, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, team that is leading the division. Man, what a statement. What an absolute statement for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have handled every team. They blew out the Bengals. They bullied the Ravens. And they manhandled the Steelers. I'm telling you right now, this Eagles team is playing like the 2022 Eagles. Feel however you want to feel. A hot take here. The weakest link on the Philadelphia Eagles is Jalen Hurts. That's not saying that Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback and saying he's not great. He is. Him being the weakest link is the best possible thing you can hear as an Eagles fan. Because if Jalen Hurts plays lights out, not a soul is beating the Eagles. Hurts is the weakest link. They've got all the talent. They got one of the best D-lines. Their secondary can ball out. They've got talent all over the place defensively and offensively. You've got Saquon Barkley back there. You got one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in football. You've got legit weapons to throw to in A.J. Brown, in Devontae Smith. You've got great talent all around this team. Your weakest link is your quarterback. And people have had questions about Jalen Hurts. But the fact that your weakest link is your quarterback and he's still a pretty good quarterback, that does help Philly's chance. Because if this guy can play great, if he can play lights out football, not a single team is beating this team. I believe if Jalen Hurts steps up to the plate and plays like a great quarterback, the way he played today against Philadelphia, if he plays like that come playoff time, not a soul in the NFC can mess with Philly. Not a soul. Not a soul. He doesn't have to be perfect. He doesn't have to be the best quarterback in the league. But if he plays like he did today, and today he was not perfect. He did turn the ball over. He was not perfect. But if Jalen Hurts can produce the way he produced today in the playoffs, not a soul in the NFC is going to beat the Eagles. With the way the Detroit Lions are falling off, not in terms of record-wise, but in terms of their defense, because their defense is decimated with injuries. And it looks like they just lost 2 other players, potentially for the season, after this game. So the Lions' defense is getting decimated. They're getting decimated. Ramsey, you just missed me talking about the Ravens. I've been talking about the Ravens for the last 15 minutes. So you came in as I just finished spending 15 minutes talking about the Ravens. I'll give you a shortcut. The good, Lamar was great. Tez Walker getting involved was awesome. Mark Andrews just he's now the leader all-time in Ravens history in touchdowns. Good for him. Rashad Bateman baked. Bad. Brandon Stevens still a problem. Offensive line still a problem. Penalties still an issue. They dominated, but now they got to focus on the Steelers. There's your cliff notes, buddy. But I just spent 15 minutes talking about them. I'm on the last part with the Steelers. So, yeah, Philadelphia. When you look at what they have, offensively and defensively, from a talent perspective, and how these guys have been playing, if Jalen Hurts, who is the weakest link on this team, if he plays the way he played today, nobody in the NFC is beating them. The one team that I feel could potentially get them, depending on how matchups go, you might look towards the Rams because of that offensive firepower. And if that offensive firepower can get the best of the defense, you have a shot. But again, with the Rams defense, it scares me. I would love to say the Packers too. But the Packers' defense is also a problem. I just look at the defenses that I see here. Lions' defense is decimated. So I think because of the Lions' injuries recently, the Eagles might be the best team in the NFC. The Vikings, I still don't trust them. And it's because I don't trust Sam Darnold. He's been great, but I don't trust Sam Darnold in these type of matchups. The Packers, don't trust their defense. The Rams, I want to pick, but I just don't trust their defense. I feel like they're the one team with the way Stafford can play. If you saw the way Stafford played against the Buffalo Bills, he can play like that against any team in the league. And if that defense can just be at least somewhat consistent, they could pull off an upset against Philadelphia. I would love to show more love to Tampa Bay, but with those injuries, I just don't know. I don't know. Philly might have it. If Jalen Hurts plays the way he played against the Eagles, Philadelphia is coming out of the NFC. And if he can play lights out, not a soul is beating that Eagles team. Because that defense is good enough to make up for his mistakes. And that's the aspect that matters. It's so weird. It's so weird that, your weakest link is your quarterback. And all he has to do is play great, and you will be in the Super Bowl. And if he plays lights out, he's winning a championship. So it comes down to that. But yeah, the Eagles, they manhandled the Steelers. Now the Steelers, they were already dealing with injuries coming into this game, such as no Deshaun Elliott and no George Pickens. However, when it comes to George Pickens specifically, we know they made the call. Mike Tomlin understands this perfectly. He made the call on George Pickens. Maybe on Deshaun Elliott, but I don't know how severe Deshaun Elliott's injury is. But he definitely made the call. They had some injuries, but Mike Tomlin made the call. Mike Tomlin's a smart man. He looks at the schedule and understands, listen, guys, we want to beat Philly, obviously. We want to beat Philadelphia, no question. But losing to Philly is not the end-all, be-all. At the end of the day, they come to Baltimore on Saturday. Losing to Philly didn't change a damn thing in the division, even with the Ravens beating the Giants. At the end of the day, Pittsburgh knows if they beat the Ravens on Saturday, they win the AFC North. So you're telling me there's a chance, because he didn't play last week. There's a chance George Pickens could have played against the Eagles. What would you do? Would you play him against Philly knowing that tough physical defense, or would you sit your best receiver in a marquee matchup that's happening 6 days later against a divisional rival when you have a chance to potentially win the division? Yeah, George Pickens probably could have played against the Eagles, but Mike Tomlin knows he's going to need George Pickens against the Ravens. Maybe the same could be said about Deshaun Elliott. I don't know. But, yeah. I believe, some of the injuries that they were suffering heading into this game, those are guys that could have potentially tried to go and play in this game against Philadelphia, but Tomlin's like, we're not going to force it. We got a chance to win the division in Baltimore in 6 days. I'd rather have George Pickens, Deshaun Elliott, and everybody ready for that game. So that's all I would have to say about injuries heading into the game. Now, in terms of what happened in the game, the worst possible scenario could have happened for this Steelers team. So let's get into this. Steelers basically get manhandled. They get offered gifts by Philadelphia. And that's where I talk about the good and bad. Philadelphia, so Jalen Hurts fumbled the ball in one situation. In another situation, they had a return that got muffed. No, it didn't get muffed. He caught the return, and the ball got knocked out of his hands. They had multiple opportunities thanks to those multiple turnovers, and they got 3 points out of it. They got 3 points. 2 fumbles that gave them favorable spots. They got 3 points out of it. This is one thing that needs to be spoken of about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They can't score in the red zone. They are not a great team in the red zone. That's actually the problem. A lot of their touchdowns that they usually score is outside of the red zone. They can't score consistently in the red zone. This is a serious thing. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not a team that can consistently score in the red zone. That is a sign of a squad that could potentially fall short in the playoffs, because a glaring weakness like that will be exploited. If you can't score in the red zone, and we know you're poor there, yeah, I can see a few teams in the playoffs that could take advantage of that. But, yeah, they, Steelers tried to keep up, but Philadelphia, they had the early advantage. Philly had the early advantage, but, Steelers just couldn't recover. They had the early advantage, but Steelers, they had opportunities to potentially make this a game. They just... It came down to really one thing. I mean, other than them not taking advantage of the penalties, it came down to one thing. It's 17-10. They have a chance to go tie the game. They get down to the goal line. And Najee Harris, who doesn't fumble the football, fumbles the football. It's recovered by the Eagles, and that pretty much ended the game for them, because the Eagles will go on a long drive, score a touchdown, make it a 2-possession game, make it 27-13, and that was all she wrote. And I think they killed like 10 minutes on that drive. So yeah, the Eagles, they just manhandled the Steelers. The Steelers were barely on the field in the second half. I think the total time of possession was 40 minutes for the Eagles, or nearly 40 minutes for the Eagles, and then 20 minutes for the Steelers. They just got manhandled. Not much to talk about here. Russell Wilson couldn't really get much against this defense. They tried to get the running game going. They really couldn't do much of anything. Eagles' front seven dominated, and then their secondary held up against these receivers. They were badly missing George Pickens, and they could show. Well, it didn't. It can't show. It did show. They were badly missing George Pickens, and it did show. And it was an issue. Penalties also hurt them as well. The Steelers just looked lost out there. And, these are the type of games I point to as to why I think Pittsburgh's going to fall short to a team like Buffalo or Kansas City in the playoffs. I just think when you have these offenses that can put up points and can dominate in time of possession and can make stops, meanwhile your offense struggles in the red zone, that is an aspect that could cost you in the playoffs. That's why I think they're going to lose in the divisional round to either Buffalo or Kansas City. I just think that's going to be the matchup. They're just not going to have the tools to be able to keep up with either one of those teams, and ultimately they will lose those games. Now, Buffalo, I can see Buffalo beating them by double digits, but Kansas City, that'll be a close game that the Chiefs will be able to pull off. Either way, I just don't see Pittsburgh beating Kansas City or Buffalo in the postseason. But that's just me. We'll see how that works out. This is a tough loss for them, but nothing was tougher for them than watching T.J. Watt go down with an ankle injury. Now, they did some tests. Reports came back negative, so it is just an ankle injury. Don't know if it's severe to the point where he may not be able to play this week, but it is an ankle injury. They said he rolled his ankle up. I don't know how severe the ankle injury is, but he did roll up his ankle, so that is something to look out because your best player suffered an injury 6 days before a marquee matchup that could determine the division. So that definitely is something on the minds of every Steelers fan right now because T.J. Watt is the heart and soul of that defense, and he's the catalyst that keeps everything going. Hell, he strip-sacked Jalen Hurts and nearly did it again. So T.J. Watt is the catalyst that keeps this whole defense going. If he's not out there, it massively changes what the Steelers defense does because that is the guy that wrecks worlds. That is the guy that should be Defensive Player of the Year. And if he's not out there, it changes the whole aspect of the Steelers defense. So, yeah, T.J. Watt getting hurt is major news. We'll see how the week progresses in terms of that ankle injury. I don't know if it's a major or minor injury in terms of how severe that is, but it's just an ankle injury. And they'll be showing reports throughout the week whether or not T.J. Watt practices. My mindset personally, I think T.J. Watt's going to play. This is one of the toughest players in the league. He's going to play. I don't think an ankle injury is going to be enough to stop him, especially if it's nothing major. If it's a minor injury, he'll deal with the pain. That's just what T.J. Watt will deal with. And even if it's major, he might put himself on the field knowing how important this game is. They win that game on Saturday, they win the division. No question. No question. No question. But, yeah, Steelers take an L. But just like the Giants game, this loss means nothing. At the end of the day, next week meant more than this week. Steelers just wanted to get a win against Philadelphia. They just didn't, but they're not tripping. That loss wasn't significant. Just like the win Baltimore got against the Giants isn't really significant. What happens this week will be. So, yeah, this week's pretty much important. Nobody cares what's happening with the Browns, but I guess I technically have to say who the Browns are facing off against next. Let me see. In terms of next week here, because that's pretty much it for Week 15, the Browns are taking on... Oh, I completely forgot. Whoa! Wait a minute. I didn't realize this. Oh. So it's an all AFC North matchup next week. Cincinnati's going up against Cleveland, and Baltimore's got Pittsburgh. Oh, we got things to talk about next week, huh? We got things to talk about next week. Next week is where I knew it. This week wasn't much to say about the AFC North. Next week, we've got things to talk about. Cleveland could potentially end Cincinnati's playoff hopes because if they get to 9 losses, it's over. Cleveland has the opportunity to potentially end Cincinnati's playoff hopes. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh has a chance to win the division. So Week 16, things are going to mix up severely in the division. Either Cincinnati's still alive and Pittsburgh wins the division, or Cincinnati's still alive and Baltimore ties the division, or Baltimore ties the division and Cincinnati's not. So much can happen now. I didn't realize this. Next week, AFC Showdown. We've got the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals, and we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. AFC Showdown next week. Not much to really say after that. Not much to say. We'll see what happens between the Bengals and the Browns, but that won't happen until Sunday because Steelers-Ravens is up first on Saturday, and it will be a game for the AFC North. So with that being said, that is pretty much all I have to say here about Week 15 State of the AFC North address. That was not much to really speak on because, not much really happened this week. But next week, 2 AFC North battles. We're going to have a lot to say about that. But that's pretty much it for me. I'll read some of your comments and then head on off to bed because I got work in the morning. If Harbaugh loses this game, I think he's done. If EDC has balls, that's it. He's not firing. I will tell you this, guys. You need to stop. It's just not going to happen. Stop trying to delude yourself into thinking EDC is going to fire Harbaugh. It's not. If anybody would fire Harbaugh, it'd be Steve. But Steve's not worried about that. He only cares about making money at this point. He's not really concerned about that. Harbaugh is not going to go if they lose to the Steelers. If this team still makes the playoffs, he's probably going to be here. Will the Ravens take advantage of the wounded Steelers, and will the Ravens put their kindness aside? I don't think they have kindness for the Steelers. I would hope the Ravens will be able to take advantage, but again, even with the Steelers being wounded, I still think the Steelers, they're just a much more physical team than the Ravens, and they rely on that physicality, whereas the Ravens in recent years haven't really relied on that physicality. They've relied on the talents of Lamar Jackson, assuming one player is going to be able to beat the whole team. Not to mention, them boys just don't take, I really don't think they can really match up to that level of physicality. I don't think they can, because they haven't shown me they can. Dude, Zay Flowers has dropped passes. Like some of his drops have happened specifically against the Steelers. Like unexcusable drops. And I don't know how he won't do this against other teams, but against the Steelers, the ball will be right here. He should be able to catch it. Nope. Doinks off his body. How? I don't know. But it's the Steelers. It always happens. Whatever. Casey's going to be the 1 seed. Mahomes is gone. Mahomes is fine. I think that's what you're going to say. Mahomes is fine. Yeah, Casey's going to be the 1 seed. We already know it. Yeah, my Q&A is going to have to be next week, the week of Christmas. Barely watched this Ravens game. It didn't matter. Giants are a high school team. Giants are not a high school team, nor are they a college team. They're an NFL football team. One of the worst football teams in the National Football League would destroy a high school team. Let's not disrespect them. They're grown men. Just because they're not a good NFL team does not mean they would lose to a high school team. We like to make these jokes, but if you put these grown men against high school children, they're going to destroy them, and it won't even be a conversation. I know we like to exaggerate, but let's chill out. Steelers and Russell Wilson didn't fool me. They're not good. I would not say they're not good. I just don't think they're good enough to win. There's a difference. They're a good team. You don't get that record without being a good team. They are a good team. But are they good enough to win it all? I don't think so. Not with that offense. Not with that offense. Go get Greenlaw. That's not happening. Let's not even pretend that's happening. Lions coach hates kicking field goals. He hates doing a lot of things, and his decision making could potentially cost them. Yeah, since he still has to play Denver, and we'll see what happens with that. Can't believe the Chargers lost to trash. Baker's been playing well. Tampa's not a bad team. They're just dealing with injuries. They're going to win their division, by the way. But Tampa's not a bad team. They're just dealing with injuries. And Baker's having the best year of his career. He's 32 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. That's not bad. He's been the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now on the season are 8-6. Let me repeat this. They're an 8-6 football team, and Baker Mayfield, I'm gonna read his stats right now. So we're not gonna pretend that Baker Mayfield is just the previous. This is the best year of his career. He has never played this well. Baker Mayfield on the year, 70% completion, nearly 71% completion, 3,617 pass yards, 32 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, a passer rating of 104. He's never had a passer rating over 100 in his career. This is the first time in his career he's having a passer rating over 100. So I would not say Baker's trash. I would not say that. If Cincy loses to Denver, Cincy's on the brink of it. If they lose to Denver, their season's over by then. Their season's over by then. If they lose to Denver, their season's probably over at that point. You're not rolling on Steelers like you did the Giants. Never said they would. When did that come out of my mouth that they were going to roll the Steelers? I never said they would. I never said they would. I don't think anybody thinks they're going to. In fact, probably the Steelers are probably the team that has a better chance of rolling over the Ravens than the Ravens rolling over the Steelers. Colts had a chance today versus Broncos, but too many mistakes. Yeah, that pick six ultimately put them in that position. That might have ended their season, but we'll see. Steelers fans are very worried about TJ Watt. Depending on the injury, I don't know. If it's a major injury, don't let him play. If it's a minor injury, he'll be fine. I say rest TJ Watt. Even with the division on the line, we need a healthy Watt in the playoffs. They'd rather win the division. But again, it depends on TJ Watt's status. And if TJ feels he's good enough to play and the ankle injury isn't that severe, he'll play. So that's just how it is. Yeah, Commanders nearly lost that game. It was nasty, but it is what it is. I was more concerned about them stopping the clock. That was the problem. They should have won the game, but whatever. They won the game no matter what. You're 9-5. You got to be careful because the Rams are right there, and you just got to be careful. That's all I got to say. But the Commanders won. That's all that matters. Nice tune-up game before Saturday. That's all. Let's go, Flock. I guess you would look at it as a tune-up game. I just thought it was to just knock the rust out. I don't think they're going to be balled. The way they balled out against the Giants, they're not doing that against the Steelers. If they do that against the Steelers, then everybody's changing their perspective on the Ravens. But the Ravens are who we thought they were, so I don't think they're doing that against the Steelers. Don't worry, we'll have all of our DBs and GP. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you guys will have everybody back ready for the matchup. But we'll see how things go. Hurts doesn't have to be perfect in order to win. Yeah, but he just has to be great enough to help them out. Because again, we'll be going up against a great quarterback for the most part, so you have to be able to match to an extent. Talent alone doesn't win Super Bowls. Coaching and play calling matters. That being said, I have the Eagles making the Super Bowl. You're right. I've said execution is the most important thing, and execution has been the aspect. Play calling has been really solid. Like if we're talking about the Eagles post bye week, the coaching and play calling has actually been up to point. It's been up to par. It's been up to par. Even in the games where it's been close, it's been up to par to an extent. But we'll see if that holds up. Eagles should have won the last time. They won the Super Bowl, but Mahomes in the second half happened. Eagles are out for blood. Hey, man, we'll see if they can get it done. We will see if they can get it done. Just have to see if they're able to get it done. But who knows? Who knows? Let's see here. Jalen Hurts outplayed Mahomes in the Super Bowl. An argument could be made, but it doesn't matter if you outplay him in the Super Bowl if the other guy's holding the trophy. Nobody cares that you outplayed Mahomes. The other guy's holding the trophy. Dude, multiple quarterbacks have outplayed Mahomes this year. Mahomes, he still got the win in those games, unfortunately, for the other side. I know it's a running joke, but props to Josh Allen on winning his first MVP deserved. The MVP race technically isn't still over. You do have to finish this off. You can't, mess up the last 3 weeks. Voters will change their mind. Now, the last 3 games, the Patriots, Jets, Patriots, he's obviously going to cook those teams and get it done. But if he stumbles, that's where the conversation happens. If he stumbles, plays bad, and loses 1 or, God forbid, 2 of those games, now his MVP campaign gets viewed differently. So I cannot say with 3 weeks to go he should automatically be crowned now. That's not necessarily how it works with the MVP, but he has to finish it off. He's had another defining win. It's time to finish it off. You got to finish it off before they will award you the trophy. You can't just try to assume he's going to get it 3 weeks in. 3 weeks before the season ends, because if he messes up those 3 weeks, he can lose it like that. That's just how crazy the MVP race is. But Allen should win it. Good for him. I guess the Bills fans have been crying about it. People are already looking at this. I've seen people sit back and say this is the Joel Embiid MVP. It's like the here, man. Damn, you keep crying about it. Which again, Josh Allen hasn't been crying about it. I've seen people make that Joel Embiid thing. I don't think it's fair. Unless Josh Allen cries when he gets the MVP, I don't think it's fair. Embiid actively wanted it. I personally do not think Josh Allen cares for the MVP. I mean, it'd be nice to add to his resume, because I've talked about it. If he doesn't have any personal accomplishments and doesn't win any Super Bowl, it's going to be very interesting watching his Hall of Fame case. Because at least with Mahomes, he's got the trophies and everything. Lamar, he has the personal accomplishments. He's got the All-Pros. He's got the MVPs. If he never wins a Super Bowl, he still has those other aspects, plus what he's doing now in his career and all this other stuff. He'll have those accolades to help improve his Hall of Fame career. If Josh Allen just has a bunch of numbers, there's going to be some nitpicky individuals in that committee that's going to say, well, all he did was put up a bunch of big numbers. He never won any individual accolade. He never won a Super Bowl and all this. There will be people like that. So, but even though Allen obviously would deserve to go in the Hall of Fame. So it's good to see Allen win an MVP. I mean, good for him. His fans can't stop crying about it. It would be hilarious if he wins MVP and someone else wins the Super Bowl. Be hilarious, because at that point it'll prove my point that Bills fans spend more time crying about the MVP as opposed to focusing on the goal, which is to win the Super Bowl, I guess. But they talk more about the MVP than the Super Bowl. But it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, Allen should be able to win it, barring any mistakes within the last 3 weeks. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over a bunch and they don't lose those games against the Patriots and Jets, they should be fine. Yeah, the last time they played, the Ravens Steelers only scored field goals. Yeah, because they're not a good red zone team. Lamar said once the Steelers are just like every other opponent, he needs to realize they're not. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's just about handling business. No matter who the opponent is, you've got to handle business and treat this like an important game. You have to have that mindset every single week. But when it comes to divisional games, you have to have that mindset even more. You got to treat this like it's a playoff game. Hope the Ravens show up. Tomlin owns them. Well, he owns Harbaugh specifically, but that's how it goes. Ravens are better than the Steelers, but the best team doesn't always win. They're better talent-wise, but at the end of the day, you play 60 minutes of football to determine who was the better team on that field. It doesn't care how much talent you have. You got to be the better team on that field for 60 minutes. That's just how it is. Ravens will win Steelers game at home. Steelers barely beat us last time. I mean, that's great that they barely beat us last time, but here's the key word, beat. They beat us. And if they were able to beat us before, they can certainly beat us again. So we can't just assume Baltimore is going to beat them automatically. Now, granted, I said they were going to split with the Steelers. I expected them to lose in Pittsburgh. I expect them to win in Baltimore. That's just me. But we can't just assume that it's going to automatically happen just because they barely beat us last time. Yeah, they barely beat us last time and the time before. This is not the first time we've gone to Pittsburgh and had to convert a 2-point conversion to win the game, and or at least win or tie the game, and we failed to do so. This has happened many times against the Steelers, which is why over the last 9 matchups, they're 8-1. So they've been barely beating us. It's not like we're getting blown out in these matchups. It's one-possession games. We've been barely losing to these guys for like 8 of the last 9 times. I would not underestimate what Pittsburgh can do. Yeah, we're not going to do Steelers like that. If we have a lot of penalties, we're just not going to win against the Steelers. Today was my favorite Ravens game of the year. No stress, I guess. I think it's because everyone expected the Ravens to blow out the Giants, and they actually met everyone's expectations. Can Lamar get a belt for Christmas? His pants is always falling. I don't even know what's up with that. I mean, I don't know what they wear for those tights, if there's anything that's needed there. I don't know. I don't want to talk about Lamar's pants. I'm not worried about that. What's going on, Legendary? At this point, Lamar's mama needs to be the coach. She'll hold these players more accountable than Harf. I mean, it's funny to make those jokes, but his mom's not running a football team. Let's stop this. He's not. Like, I know we're making jokes, but there's some people that are trying to take it seriously. Please, I hope no one's actually taking that seriously. And that would make sense for Lamar's mom to be the coach of the team. We could make these jokes and have fun, but the people that were taking it serious on Twitter, please stop. We still have problems on the O-line. Oh, yeah, I spent 5 minutes talking about how the O-line is still an issue. I talked about the penalty still being an issue. I talked about Brandon Stevens still being an issue. This team still has issues. And as long as these issues are still here, they're going to be They're going to be a team that's ultimately going to fall short in the playoffs. The O-line is still a problem because your guards are terrible. It has nothing to do with your tackles. Stanley's fine. Linderbaum's fine. Rosengarten's fine. Your guards are the issue, and everybody knows it, but they refuse to address it. Brandon Stevens continues to get cooked. Either he's giving up a big catch or he's causing pass interference. It's one of the other. He's either causing pass interference or he's getting cooked by the receiver, and they still won't bench him. Whatever. You think there can be a better version of Lamar than this one? Because every year it seems like he gets better at something or adds something to his arsenal every season. Lamar Jackson this year. Lamar Jackson what is it? We're 9-5, so he's played 14 games. In 14 games, Lamar Jackson is completing 68% of his passes, which is a career high. 3,580 yards. He's going to be over 4,000, which will be a career high. 34 touchdowns. He's going to break his career high from his MVP season 2019. He'll probably get 40 touchdown passes depending on how these last 3 games go. 3 interceptions. He's not going to get double-digit interceptions on the season. He might not even throw another one. Who knows? And a passer rating of 120, which would be highest all time. So 68% completion, 35-80, 34 touchdown, 3 interception ratio, 120. That is right up there with some of the greatest quarterback play. That's like 2011 Aaron Rodgers. That's like Peyton Manning type stats right there. Would there be another level from this? I don't know. If there's a better version of this, then if there's a better version of this, then they have no reason to lose games. I'm going to be honest. If you get a better version of this, buddy, they're going to have to win multiple chips with that guy. You get a better version of this. And yeah, the funny thing with the rushing yards, he has 746 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. So Lamar, with 3 games left, is on pace to throw over 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, have under 5 interceptions, have a passer rating above 120, and rush for 1,000 yards. So he could potentially become the first quarterback to run for 1,000, pass for 4,000, and he might do it while having 40 plus touchdowns. If there's a better version of Lamar than what we're seeing this year, then you better win the Super Bowl with that guy. That's all I'm going to say. You better win a Super Bowl with that guy. If there's a better version than this guy we're seeing right now, then you better win a Super Bowl that year with that guy. John's going to manipulate the media by saying, see, I made changes at the O-line. I don't care if he's got to manipulate them if he's made changes. I just want the changes. I don't care what John's got to say. Just make the changes. Yeah, good luck to Jaden Daniels against the Eagles. We'll see. If Brandon Stevens can actually turn this... I'm tired of the if games. Stop with the if games. We're 15 weeks in. Stop with the if games. We don't need that. We saw him last year turn his head around. He performed at a high level. He don't want to do it this year. I'm tired of the if games. If he does this, if he does that, if. We played the if games with Marcus Williams this year. He's on the bench permanently now. I'm done. 15 games in, we not playing the if games anymore. You don't want to turn your head around? Cool. Sit on the bench. Tre'Davious White can turn his head around. I'm done with the if games. I'm done with the if games. I'm so done with the if games. Because the if games don't do nothing for you but fostering excuses for why you're playing poorly. Well, if you would have done this, if you would have done that. No. If. We're done with that. If you would have taken advantage of those opportunities in the first 15 weeks, you wouldn't be seen as bad as you've been looking. If you would have performed better, we wouldn't be talking about you potentially getting benched. If you would have done the things you should have been doing, you wouldn't be seen as a poor cornerback this year. I don't need to play the if games. We're done with that. It's time. 15 games in. It's not 15 games. 15 weeks in. We're done. We're done with that nonsense. Put him on the bench. He don't learn. Put him on the bench. That's it. Lamar Jackson is basically having an Aaron Rodgers season and putting up damn near 800 rushing yards. Yeah, Lamar has been having an insane year. It's going to be one of the greatest quarterback seasons of all time. It's going to be a historical year. It doesn't matter if he wins MVP or not. It's going to go up there. The guy's already got 2, so I don't think this season is going to be forgotten, especially if the Ravens do go on to win a Super Bowl. It could potentially be like a Nikola Jokic type thing when Nikola Jokic put up a historical season, but they gave the MVP trophy to Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic responded by going to win a championship and defining his legacy. So I would prefer that. Honestly, perfect scenario for me. Josh Allen wins the MVP so Bills fans can shut the hell up, and then Baltimore wins the Super Bowl so we can sit back and say, oh, he got that, we got this, and everybody's happy, right? The Bills got the precious trophy for Allen, and we got the precious trophy for Lamar. I think it works out for everybody. Yeah, we need Tre'Davious White in. We do. We do, absolutely. We need him in. Do you think we lose to the Steelers, though? No. I expected us to lose in Pittsburgh. I don't think we're going to lose in Baltimore. Now, if they, find a way to, I wouldn't say exceed my expectations, because exceeding would be winning. If they find a way to, if they fail to meet my expectations, I'll say it like that. If they fail to meet my expectations and lose to the Steelers, then that's just a damn shame. That's an embarrassment. So, failing to meet my expectations would be them losing to the Steelers. And meeting my expectations would be beating the Steelers, because I picked them to tie with the Steelers. I said they would lose in Pittsburgh and win in Baltimore. The only way they could have exceeded my expectations is if they would have swept the Steelers, which they didn't do. It is what it is. If we destroy the Steelers and get over that hump, will that show you we're changing or this year might be different? No. If they destroy the Steelers this week, that would not show me that they've changed, because, again, I already predicted them to win in Baltimore. When's the last time Baltimore has won in Pittsburgh? How many times have we won in Pittsburgh? The moment where we thought in franchise history, at least during the late 2000s when we got Flacco, the year, not even late 2000s, it was early 2010s. The year we thought we got over the hump and we're going to the Super Bowl was 2011. We won in 2022? Yeah, okay, so that wasn't Pittsburgh. I thought that was in Baltimore. But how many times have we won in Pittsburgh? That's the question that has to be asked. And how many times have we done that in the Lamar Jackson era? That also has to be said. But the year in 2011 where we thought we got over the hump, we beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. That was a 92-yard drive, Joe Flacco to Torrey Smith. And that was a big moment for everybody in the fan base, because we were constantly going to Heinz Field and getting smoked. We couldn't get the best of Palomalu. We couldn't get the best of those guys. So when we did that, we felt this team got over the hump. They're going to get it done. Now, of course, they lost in the AFC title game. It is what it is. Lee Evans is still not forgiven for that. Neither is Billy Cundiff. But, we felt that was the year we were going to get over the hump. So going into the playoffs, we were very confident this would be the year we get to the Super Bowl and win. And we felt if we would have matched up with anyone in the NFC, we would have won that year. So Baltimore, there's nothing they can do in the regular season that would make me think this year is different from previous years. There's nothing they can do. Even if they win the division, even if they go 12-5, there's nothing they can do. They've had way too many mistakes, way too many pitfalls for me to sit back and say, this team's different heading into the playoffs. Now, again, I can lean on the adversity aspect, which I will make a video. This will be the most optimistic Ravens video I will make just before the playoffs. Because I'll talk about this team and compare it to the other championship teams, to talk about how this team's face adversity and all this other stuff. So I'll talk about that when we, clinch a playoff spot and the playoffs are getting ready to start. That'll be the most optimistic Ravens video I've had all season. But there's nothing they can do in the regular season now. The tests were there. They went to Kansas City, lost. They went to Pittsburgh, lost. You had Philly in your house, lost. What other tests can you do? Just because you beat the Steelers at home is not going to change anything, especially since they're dealing with injuries. There's nothing the Ravens can do in these final 3 games that will make everybody sit back and say, oh yeah, this year's going to be different. There's nothing they can do. Now, we're going to hope they get it done, but there's nothing they can do regular season-wise that is going to change the opinion of Ravens fans. They missed out on that. They could have beaten Kansas City in week 1. They didn't do it. They could have beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. They couldn't do it. They could have beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They could not do it. So the 3 games you could have looked at that could have solidified that, you lost. The one game you try to hold on to in terms of credibility was blowing out the Bills. But that was week 4 in a situation where they were missing guys. And since they've got those guys back, the Bills have lost, 1 game? So it's hard. You think we're going 2-2? It's possible we go 2-2, but honestly, I don't see us going 2-2. I think I could see us potentially going 3-1. The Steelers game would be the one game I could see us potentially losing. If they beat the Steelers, they're going to handle the Texans and they're going to beat the Browns. I'll say it straight up. If they beat the Steelers, they're going to go 12-5. I predicted this team to go 12-5. The one pitfall in that is Pittsburgh. If they beat Pittsburgh on Saturday, they're going to beat the Texans, they're going to handle the Browns, and they're going to go to 12-5 and potentially win the division. Ravens opened up as a 6.5-point favorite. That don't mean nothing. They were a favorite in the last game against Pittsburgh and lost. Justin Tucker to make a 67-yard Super Bowl kick? Hell no. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. Nobody wants that level of stress. We should have last year receivers catch. Yeah, again, it's the if game. I don't deal with ifs. They didn't get it done. We could have done this if. We could have done that if. Maybe we would have won the AFC championship game if we did this or if we did that. If Zay Flowers doesn't fumble the ball, if Lamar doesn't throw in the triple coverage, if Todd Monken runs the ball more with Gus Edwards, we can't live in the world of ifs. The result is the result. They lost that game. We can't live in the world of ifs. It doesn't change anything. Pointing out that this could happen or that could happen, it doesn't change anything. The result is the result. That's how it is in sports. You can play the if games all you want. It don't change anything. So I don't live off of ifs. I live off of the results we see on the field. And the results is those plays weren't made. Other plays were made. Pittsburgh won the game. I'm trying to keep my hopes on this team winning the Super Bowl. Please go back to playing physical against the Steelers and make the smartest decisions, please. Good luck. Good luck with that. That's all I will say. Good luck with that. They'll have a chance to see if they can do that at home. I hope they wouldn't. I hope they don't lose again in front of their fans. I really hope they don't, because if Pittsburgh beats us, they win the division. Nobody in Baltimore, no one at M&T Bank Stadium wants to be sitting there watching the Steelers celebrate an AFC North crown on our... No one wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that nonsense. So please handle business, Baltimore. Glad to see a Jackson 5, but the Giants' defense is not anything to brag about, but they got it done. Yeah, it was just one of those games where they were just, coming out of the bye week, got to stretch your legs, got to knock off the rust before you get into a heated matchup against the Steelers, and that's all that was about. They did that, and they came out of that game relatively healthy, so I'm not really worried about their health heading into the Steelers game. We'll see how things go. Anyway, guys, it is 12:55. I have to go now because I need to get some sleep. I've got work in the morning, and I cannot spend all the time here. Unfortunately, I had to get here to do this late, coming from work again and doing a bunch of other stuff. But it is what it is. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We do got the Ravens and Steelers to talk about this week, so be prepared for that. Predicted the Ravens will play way better in the playoffs and win a championship. We all hope for that, Kyle, but we have to see it to believe it. That's just how it works. Anyway, guys, get some sleep. It's 1 a.m. Everybody go to sleep, please. Get yourself some sleep, rest up, and I'll see you guys later. Be sure to stay safe. Peace out.